Well, hi there, kiddos. We're going to talk real quick about setting up and solving real world word problems. This is not really new to you because we've been setting up and solving these kinds of problems since we started solving equations, in the last week or so. So none of this is going to be super new. We're going to do 3 quick examples. If you notice on your notes, the examples that you have are fill in the blank. So you're going to have to fill in the blank with the missing information. We'll set up the equation, we'll solve it, and then we'll go from there. So the first problem, we want to do 1/5 of a number plus 5 times that number is equal to 7 times the number less 18. Find the number. Since it never says a different number, another number, I'm going to assume that the number is always the same. And so we're going to write an equation just based on those words that we see. The first thing it says is 1/5 of a number plus. So I'm going to do 1/5 of a number plus 5 times that same number, which would be 5x, is equal to 7 times the number less 18. It does not say less than 18. It just says less 18. So this is not a flip-flop. It's just 7 times the number minus 18. So now I have an equation with variables on both sides. I'm going to need to combine I'm going to need to get all the variables together on one side and go that route. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to combine our like terms right here. So I have 1/5 x plus 5x, which makes 5 and 1/5 x equals 7x minus 18. Now, I do not want to leave this as a mixed number because improper fractions are going to work a lot better for me. So the first thing I'm going to do is make this improper. So 5 times 5 makes 25 plus 1 is, so I have 26 over 5 x equals 7x minus 18. Well, now I have this fraction that I don't want to have to really deal with, so I'm going to clear out my fraction. By the way, I could have done this as step 1 and not had to mess with this, but you're going to end up with the same thing either way. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 5 so I can clear this fraction right here. So I have 26 here, x equals, now 7x times 5 is 35x, and 18 times 5, well, 18 times 5 is going to be 90, so I end up with minus 90. And so now I need to solve this. I have only x's right here, so that means I want to move all my x's to that side. So I'm going to cancel out this 35x over here, and I'm going to move it to this side of the equal sign. Well, if I do 26 minus 35, I get negative 9x equals negative 90 because I still have that minus sign. And when I divide both sides by negative 9, I get that x equals 10. So the number is going to be 10. And that's all they asked us for. So let's look at another problem. So Rob had twice as much money as Joe. Then Joe gave Rob 1/4, 2 nickels, and 3 pennies. Rob then gave Joe 8 dimes. If they now have the same amount of money, how much money did Rob originally have? So this is one where we're going to have to sort of work backwards and figure out what's going on. So we're going to sort of set this up based on what we know, and we're going to write an equation so that we can find out how much Rob really had. So we know that Rob right now has twice as much money as Joe. So Rob equals 2 times Joe. So Rob's money, which is 2 times Joe, and then Joe gave Rob this money. He gave him 1/4, 2 nickels, and 3 pennies. Well, if I add 1/4, 25 cents, plus 2 nickels, which makes 10 cents, plus 3 pennies, which makes 3 cents, I end up with 38 cents. And so Joe gave Rob 38 cents. So now because Rob is 2 times Joe, has 38 cents more. But then Rob turned around and gave Joe 8 dimes. Well, 8 dimes is 80 cents. So from that money, he subtracted 80 cents. And all of that is going to equal what Joe has because now they have the same amount of money. Rob's money and Joe's money are now equal because it says they now have the same amount. We got to find out how much Rob had, so we're going to solve this. So the first thing we're going to do is do this subtraction. So 2j, 38 cents minus 80 cents gives me negative 42 cents. And so to solve this, I'm going to move my j's over here. So I'm going to subtract 2j from both sides. So I have negative 42 cents equals negative j. Well, I can't have a negative variable, so that's like having negative 1j. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 1. That takes off my negatives, and I get that Joe has 42 cents. But the question doesn't ask about Joe. The question asks about Rob. Well, Rob has twice as much as Joe. So Rob is 2 times 42 cents, which happens to be 84 cents. So originally, Rob had 84 cents. So let's do the last one here. So Brady scores on his algebra test. On his last 4 algebra tests are 84, 79, 94, and 98. We want to know what score he has to make on the next test if he wants his average to be exactly 5 points less than the test we don't know about. Well, the unknown test is we're just going to call x. So x equals the test. So it's an average question. There's my kitty cat. She says hello. You should feel lucky. She doesn't come out or visit anybody but me usually. So we're going to do an average. We're going to add up the tests we know. 84 plus 79 plus 94 plus 98 plus the unknown test. That makes 5 tests total, so we're going to divide by 5. And he wants that average to be 5 points less than the unknown test. So he wants it to be the test minus 5. So step 1, we're going to add up our numbers. So we're going to do 84 plus 79 plus 94 plus 98, and that's 355. So we have 355 plus x divided by 5 equals x minus 5. And I'm going to start to solve this. And so the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of this division. So I'm going to multiply by 5 to cancel these out. And I'll multiply this side by 5. So I have 355 plus x. And then on this side, I have to do 5 times x, which is 5x, and 5 times 5, which is 25. I now have variables on both sides. I'm going to take the smallest one and move it. So I'm going to subtract x from here and from here, once on each side of the equal sign. So I have 355 equals 4x minus 25. So now I have to solve this, so I'm going to add 25 to both sides. I have to change my pen color here because I'm about to run out of room here. So I have to do 355 plus 25, which gives me 380, equals 4x. Well, now I'll just divide both sides by 4. And when I do, I get that unknown test has to be a 95. So Brady has got to make a 95 on his next test if he wants his average to be 5 points less than that unknown test, which happens to be a 90. He wants his average to be a 90, so he's got to make a 95. So that is real world problems. It's just taking the words, figuring out what variable do you want to use, what does it represent, and then writing the equation based on what you read, and then solving that equation. And so tomorrow we'll practice this in class. We'll have some homework, an assignment that we will do, and I will see you then. Have a good rest of your weekend.